high-tech development, high-tech development. Review high-tech, review high. High-tech development. Review high-tech, review high. Furious counterpoint.
Read it. We're gonna start back up here. How's it going?
Good.
Good. I'm waiting for this to open. So I just remembered I gotta get these. I gotta take a look at these. Did you print the PDFs for the area replacements?
I did for the fire review. Well, I actually had to do some
No,
lines.
I'm talking about for the when we replace the area for those. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
For the Dawson
no,
2, 3, and
just
4?
the one for the Holland.
Yeah, when I'm talking about previously when you did
Yes,
the area.
I did.
Okay. And trying to figure out, is this okay? So you called it area replacement. That's the whole set.
Yes.
Okay. Do you still have this open?
I have the Holland.
The Holland. You have the Hollands open. Could you close it real quick?
Yeah.
Actually, you don't even need to close it, because I'm gonna rename it here in a second. Okay. But anyway, I gotta send them the area stuff too, so I'm gonna be sending them a bunch of stuff today. Okay. So let's look at. Let's just go through the set. All right. So we've got all this going on. We've got this on here. Did you put a new view on here?
Yeah.
Okay. So the perspectives here. Let me.
Because I couldn't figure out how to change the because it was color shade, and
Gotcha.
I couldn't figure out how to
Okay.
change that. So I just did a camera.
Okay.
I mean,
That's fine.
I try to get it as close as I can.
No, that's fine. Let me. I'm going to open up a Dawson 2 set so that we can look at it. Or at least I'm going to try to. So I can have it up over here so we can compare some things. So we'll just take this time to do a little bit of training and some Revit training and some document training as well. Okay. Delineations, Tulsa, Patriot Homes, plans. I'm gonna move this closer. Awesome. And let's see, I think it's 10-4. They're all 621. I bet these are all recovered. So we're going to open up. Yeah, these were all recovered from when we lost all of our stuff. See, at least you weren't the person who had been here for 2 days and got a virus on the entire network and started deleting everybody.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of stuff. Let's see here. Put this over here so we can take a look. Click over here. Okay. So a couple things. So for the perspective, most of the stuff that we'll do, you won't have to worry about doing design options and things like that. But just keep in mind that you can change the design option without having to put a new view on if it's something that's really simple. The only reason that we have floor plans and elevations and electrical plans with different views is so that we don't have to go and redimension or renote things after we change the design option. Okay, and I'll explain that a little bit more in a second here. But what we can do is for this model set, what we would typically do is we have, did you put a new view on here?
Yes.
Okay.
It was I guess it automatically went to there.
Yeah. So it's already. Oh. So there's already another one. I'm not sure why that is. That's okay. So we have under these, for some reason they call it viewport 2. Right, and what that is it's the viewport, if you remember from CAD, putting viewports on paper space, right? Same idea, you can set up different ways that the viewport shows up on a sheet. So here we have this one where show title is set to no, okay? And we can actually just call this no title. All right, there's a bunch of other stuff that you can set up, like the line type for the line that goes underneath and things like that. But we're not going to worry about that right now. So that gets rid of that. The other thing that I'm noting here is that our shadow, our house seems to be floating off the ground. Okay. So what we can do to fix that is we can come into this view. And actually, I think there should be a cover sheet perspective view template. And we can just apply that. And it didn't fix it. So we have to go into the view templates. And it's going to be under, so shadows are okay, lighting, I believe. And we're going to set the ground plane. It says that it's at finished floor, but I think we need to reset it for some reason. See, it moved it up.
Okay.
I also like to do still instead of lighting, because then you have to manually set where the sun is, and you have to understand, you know, degrees, and you have to know which way you're looking at the house. Instead, I like to put still, and this will already be set at Tulsa.
Okay.
And I'd like to, you can put whatever day you want. I like to put my wedding anniversary so I remember it. But then you want to check and see what their shadows look like. You always want to have shadows that kind of give it the building a little bit of depth. This is, remember, this is kind of a presentation view. This is what, so the contractor can look, step back and say, okay, what I'm doing kind of looks like this, so we're on the right track. And it's also for Patriot Homes and for the client to get a good idea of what their house is going to look like. Okay. I don't know why this ended up being at such a weird angle. It's usually not. Can I do that? No. So you can see the shadows are kind of deep right here. I want them to be a little bit less deep. So right now my sun angle is really high. I'm okay with it coming from the left. Okay, so I'm going to set this to, well, I'm obviously not going to set it to anything. 11 a.m. Let's see. So there we go. It's a little bit higher of an angle. Might even be able to get away with 10 a.m. That's too much. Need to go the other way. 11:30. There we go. That's a little bit better. Right? You don't need to spend a whole lot of time adjusting it. You just want it to look good.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's not already set up. It's usually already set up. I also like to try to have it as close to front on as possible, but we do like to have, some of these views are locked, so you have to unlock them. We like to give it a little bit of depth so that you can kind of see like down the side of the house. The garage isn't as important. We'd like to see the front door. Okay. So we don't necessarily need to see like this entire side like this. We still want to see the front. We want to give it just a little bit of depth. I think one of the issues here is that we've got maybe some zoom. There we go. See how that opened that side up a lot? So now I can actually kind of reposition and turn it a little bit more, and we can get the side and get more front on. I don't know if it's my mouse or my mouse pad, but the mouse pad gets pretty dirty. Again, not a whole lot, just enough to give it some depth. Okay, and we want to make sure that we're not cutting off roof edges or anything like that. So I'm sure you over here. All right, for the Holland family, that's great. So one of the things here that we want to check and make sure we're not putting all of these sheets in both sets. So we only want to show the sheets for the construction set on this drawing list. Otherwise, the contractor is going to be looking for A0, A1, A2, A3, and A4, and F1 in the set. So we want to be sure that that's filtered correctly. So one of the things that we can do is I filter by the sheet set. Looks like you did you do a transfer project standards?
No, I actually had to go into the company's library. Okay. And went to buyer review and then added that new sheet. Oh, okay. Loaded that into. Okay, but it looks like you this is something that usually isn't in, so I'm trying, did you make that parameter, or? I have no idea. Okay, maybe it was already there. I don't know. Let's see.
So let's see. So this is the drawing list, okay? One of the things that we can do is we're gonna filter it. Do you know how filters work for schedules?
I'm not sure. Is that, are you talking about like deleting?
So, well, not deleting, but kind of you're making it so it doesn't show up.
Okay.
So think of filters as if you're panning for gold, right? And you just, all you have is a sack of dirt with maybe some gold and maybe some other gems in it, okay? So a filter for that would be, imagine being able to dump the bag of dirt into a bucket, and the bucket is labeled gold, all right? And the only thing that comes out of the bottom of that bucket is gold, and all the dirt stays inside. Okay? So it's basically filtering, it's just letting gold come through. Now, it's kind of reverse of the way you would normally think of a filter, right? Sometimes people think of filters as it catches all that stuff. You could think of it that way too, except you're not filtering out those things, you're making a filter to show only those things. Okay, so in this schedule, all right, the first thing, you can't filter something that's not in the schedule. Okay, so we have to add that field first. And that field, in this case, is sheet set. Okay, so we're gonna add that field. All right, so now we see the sheet set that each of those sheets belong to. And that parameter is also in the properties of the sheets. So if I select a sheet over here, and I go to the properties, I can see that they each have a sheet set parameter. Okay, so one of the easy ways to apply a parameter to multiple sheets is to select them. Okay, we're going to call this buyer review set. And then we can see that all those sheets are now buyer review set, and it's also filled it out here. Okay?
It took me forever to try to figure that out.
It took me forever to figure it out too. So this is 10 years of Revit experience being taught to you in 5 minutes. So don't feel silly or dumb or anything like that.
All of the sheets.
Yep, so these are all part of the model set. Okay? So we can see, and actually, what is it called now? Do we call it a model set? Do we? Because it's a custom.
No, it's a construction.
That's right. Yep, construction set. I knew you'd get there. All right, and then we have a marketing flyer, which you've seen, which we don't really need this for this because they're not trying to resell this plan, right? So we don't really need that. Okay, so now we have all of our sheets are showing up, and we don't have a filter applied. So we even have the marketing flyer showing up. Okay, so we want to figure out how to only show the construction set sheets. All right, so now that we have this parameter showing up in the schedule, we want to make a filter, a bucket that holds all that gold, right? So we're going to filter by, and this is where you set the parameter. So the parameter that we want to filter by is
the buyer sheet, right?
Well, that's the value, but what's the parameter name that we're going to filter? Which of these are we going to filter? Sheet number, sheet name, or sheet set?
It's going to be the sheet number.
We're going to filter by sheet number?
No, the sheet set.
There you go. Okay. So sheet set equals, okay, and I could type it in, but since Revit is sometimes smart, we can pick from the list of options that are already there. This will only contain values that are already assigned. So it's not going to contain values that don't exist in the project. Okay? So we want this to be a construction set. All right? And that's it. So now only the sheets that are construction set will show up. Okay? Now, we don't really need, I mean, this is a little ugly, right? We don't need them to see construction set. Okay. So what we can do, did I close it? I think I did. Is we can select this by we can select that whole column, and we can hide that column. Okay? It's still a field that's in, see, sheet set is still in the schedule, it's just not showing, right? Let's see. Any questions about that?
I think I got it.
All makes sense. See how that says sheet number? This is another one of those things that OCD Carl doesn't like. You just call this number. That way you can make that a little bit smaller. Right?
Man, I was trying to figure that out for like an hour.
That's okay. All right, so Dawson 2, Holland Family, Broken Arrow, that's fine. Did you get the address?
See, I was trying to figure that out too.
Okay.
What I did, I was trying to edit the family.
Oh, okay, the title block?
Yeah, and then I changed it, but it never transferred, it never loaded into the project. And then I figured out a way to just click it, and then it worked, but then I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it again.
So I think, let's see. What was that? Current address.
It was in the contract.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to see if I can find the new address. Man, I feel like I'm having to yell. It's so loud.
It was the first page.
I think that was the current address.
It was?
So this page?
No. I mean the first page of the contract.
Yeah, so this is the current address. That's not where we're building the house, so we want to make sure we get the new address.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
This one?
No, not that, but it was...
I didn't see another address on there.
Oh, I think it was like on page 6 or something.
Yeah, I think it's further down.
I was talking about that, like the first page of like the contract.
I know it's in here, yeah, I saw it too. Just got to get through all the boring legal stuff. That's the builder.
Well, I thought it was at the beginning.
They move it around. I don't know why they move it around so much. So it's in the Highlands. So what we can do is we can put the Highlands in here. Highlands 4. And let's center that so that it kind of cleans up a little bit. And then it's just, it doesn't have to be in an exact place. We can kind of clean things up a little bit. Everything okay? All right, I gotta go too. Yeah, we can take care of this.
Okay.
It's your fault, Holly. You're the reason that it started flooding.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. Just go back to work. All right, you ready? Where were we? We were looking for an address. Oh, my mouse reset. I wonder why it did that. There we go. Okay. So we could even put at Forest Ridge in there, but I'm not going to. So I think this is the address right here.
But I don't think so. Is it?
Let's look and see.
Well, I know that.
No, it's going to be off of
75th.
South 75th Street. So what is this then?
I think that was just like
Contract consideration failure of split buyer to sell. Oh, to sell buyer's okay. So that's saying that they have to sell their current property.
It was either like the second or third page of the contract of the agreement.
Oh, great.
Right there.
Hold on a second. Right there, you see it?
It's It's right there.
Oh, there it is. Good. Hold on. Your computer just shut off? So, so this is a parameter here that's part of the project. So it looks like I see you went and you tried to, you tried to change it there.
I actually put broken arrow underneath it, but then somehow it. I don't know what it did. I pushed break and then broken arrow, but.
So the way that this family works is that these are labels, okay? And it's just a placeholder. Sorry, I'm trying to run over you there. It's just a placeholder. So if I go look at this label, okay, by hitting edit label, we'll see that it's the parameter called project name, okay? And that this label is called a parameter called project address, okay? So when it's a parameter, it's just a placeholder until you put a value in it. Okay, so, and I'm going to go ahead and load this here. All right, so if I go look at, and those are project parameters, okay, so there's really not a way to edit those parameters outside of having a label to fill things in with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look for project parameters over here. There we go. And we can see we have not the parameters that I was looking for. Those are, maybe those aren't sheet parameters. I'm not sure exactly where those parameters are showing up. But, oh, hold on a second. Nope, not there. So I'm not sure where exactly those are showing up, and I'm not even sure how you'd get to them without going here. I'd have to go remember that. But all you have to do is just click right here, and then you can put that.
Wait.
1208. So this is 75th.
You didn't just click on that and it just popped up.
Street. Yep, I did. Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Right? And then it'll do it right there. Same thing for like these. This isn't text that you just type in, it's actually a parameter.
I did that.
2.5 car garage right. That's good. We'll check this when we get to the area. Let me check and see. I think Joanna's here, so I'm gonna go deal with that real quick. But now you know. In the title block, you can.
I clicked that like maybe.
But did you do it in the project or in the family?
Both.
Okay. So, but that's how you do that. Now you know. All right, let me go help down here and see.
Okay.
If you want to work on churning while I'm doing this. Yeah, we need to try to soften up off the wall, right? Oh my goodness. It's fucking piece of shit. Oh my god. I'll come do it in a second. All right. Courtney, you ready? We'll see how much more we can get done before. Ouch. Here, I can move this out of the way if you need to take notes or something.
Okay, yeah.
You don't need to. If you just want to come over here and watch, that's fine. I wasn't sure if you had a notebook or not. All right, so we got our address. We finally got our address, and you understand now how labels work. Mm-hmm. So some of these are labels, and some of them are just text. Like if you hover over that, see it's just text. It says text notes. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that is so that, and think of it this way: you can move text around wherever you need it to go. All right, we cannot move that. Okay. So labels are usually going to be built into the title block, and it's going to be things that we don't want moved around. Okay, so if there's a label over here, it's probably there because we want it in a certain spot. Okay, but most of this over here is just empty space. Okay, a couple other things to note about the title block. I put a date stamp down here, and you can see that it keeps very accurate time. Okay. So, and I also put a file path over here. This is teeny tiny because it's not too important. We'll be able to see it in the PDFs, but we won't. The client won't be able to see this on their prints because it'll be under the binding. Okay. This is important for us so that if you print something, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, this just doesn't seem right. This is printed from like an old version or something, and I'm looking at it, I can go here and I can look at it and see, which file you printed it from, and that'll explain a lot of why I'm seeing stuff, or that way I can go to that file instead of having to guess, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, see which one was printed. The Texas projects, I don't think have this. But I occasionally try to sneak it in there. All right. Any questions about what we've done over so far?
So right after you showed me how to basically just click the address, and you can just edit the text.
Yep.
I went over there and tried to do it, and it didn't work.
All right. Let's see. Do you have it up still?
Yeah.
That's certainly not how it's supposed to work. But this is essentially just a big text block. So you can put a ton of stuff in there. All right, anything else? Any other questions about this so far?
It was the full finished schedule.
Okay, we'll get to that one.
But that's everything here.
On this sheet, that was it?
Yeah.
All right, so the area plans, we just take a look here. The only thing that jumps out to me here is we want to make sure, we want to be consistent. All right, so if everything else is uppercase, lowercase, sentence case, be sure that everything is. Okay, that shows 2.5 car garage. You were saying that the square footage was not right? So this says 568 square feet, that says 480. So my guess...
And I tried to see if it was, the floor plan was still in,
so here's
3 garage.
Yeah, so here's the thing. You assigned this, all right? But it was still, what really needed to happen was that this needs to be set to 2.5 car. Yeah, so instead of applying, I think you assigned. So this schedule, so what is this? This is room finish schedule. Why can't I think straight? Area schedule. So if we apply template 2.5 car, and see, for some reason this is still messed up. It's still, it wasn't setting to the right thing, so that's probably part of the problem. Oh, not what I meant to do. For some reason it's still incorrectly. Oh wait, I had the wrong one. Apply view template, 2.5 car. 476, so it's probably, I mean, it's pretty close. It's probably the difference between we're going to the face of the stud and it's reading to the face of the finish there. Yeah. Okay, so that's what that was. You just want to be sure just think of view templates. All view templates are doing are setting the parameters in visibility graphics automatically. So if something's not working right, then you want to go into visibility graphics and be sure that, see, if it says automatic, like it was a second ago, if it says automatic, then it's going to show either whatever's in primary here in this drop down, or if you're editing a design option, it'll automatically show whatever you're editing. Okay, so otherwise you have to assign it specifically.
And I thought I did that, but I guess instead of going into the
so you did, but the template itself was set to set that parameter to automatic.
Okay.
So I don't know why this one's jacked up. It shouldn't be that way. I need to go fix that at some point. So I just like to make sure that things like this are correct. 1626, 615, 2241. That should be a 1, so we're good there. 4 and 1 is 5, so we're good there. So you're all good there. Everything looks like it's matching up properly. Here we've got 1741, 653. Those add up correctly, so we're good there. And some of these I like to just double check to make sure that the line is in the right spot. Like exterior walls are good, and this is in storage space. So technically somewhere here this should jog over, but I don't worry about it too much because it's like 20 square feet and it's not going to make that big of a difference. So everything's good right here. It comes to the top of the stairs because we count the stairs in the first floor, so we don't want to double count the stairs. Everything's good there. Face of brick, face of finish there. To the garage stud here. All right. anything? Looks like I had to nudge that. Did you nudge that one, or was it?
I think I might have.
Okay. So that's fine. So for some reason our line isn't showing up in this viewport. I'm not sure what happened there, but that line usually, we want to keep that line, and it's personal preference on how long that line is. Some people make this line as long as the title, and some people make the line as long as the view to kind of help define this title is for that view. Obviously on a big floor plan, it doesn't make sense to have the line go all the way across, so you just kind of, as long as you get the point across. Numbered correctly, and then we want to make sure 1626, 615, 2241, so we're all good there. I did notice we want to be sure that we put the date that we're going to be issuing, so if you end up working on it the next day, be sure you update the date. Minor things. All right, any questions about this sheet? Did this solution make sense?
It did.
Okay. All right, so this sheet, just so you know, he doesn't do it, but I leave this sheet, this area blank because there's supposed to be a site plan put in here. And that's why it's called site plan.
Okay.
There's supposed to be a site plan here, and that's also why this is 2 and 3, so this drawing would be 1.
Why did they do it that way instead of 1, 2, 3?
Well, if you think about a set over here. This is how a set drawing usually looks on the construction trailer. This is usually more for commercial. Residential ones, they usually have laid out up on the window or counter or something like that. So a couple things. First of all, we put a sidewalk on the right so that when it's rolled up, you can see what project it is. You don't have to unroll it to see across the bottom or across the top. Okay? So it's really easy to see the date. Which project it's for is revisions, which version of the set this is, and it's also why we can read. Alright? And what typically happens is, if you want to see a drawing, like the important drawing, right? Think about how far you have to unroll it. Alright, so being, considerate to the contractors, some of you don't know so let's say we're in a trailer or in a house and we don't have a lot of space. We can see the important drawings. So this is the first drawing you see. So 1, 2, 3. And some people are going to do it from the bottom. Some people are going to do it from the top. I'm not going to fuss over whether it's top or bottom. I'm not going to fuss it. What I'm going to fuss it out is if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it should be consistent, either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 1, 2, 3. It doesn't really matter. But this is why I number it this way, because this is the first drawing you see, second drawing is third drawing. So this is the site plan, so the first drawing you see, second drawing. So that's why, like this floor plan, that's why instead of centering it, it's pushed all the way around here. Because now, I don't have to open the set all the way, see the set. And a lot of times when people look at the drawings, they're only just open this much. So think about that when you're telling the story, right? Think about how the set is going to be used. Okay, it's going to be used from this, it's going to be used probably in this format mostly, not open all the way. The only time it's going to be open all the way really is honestly, in my opinion, this should be over here, and these smaller details should be over here. That might be something we consider doing. Some people will do it differently. Some people will say, I want this sheet all the way open from over here, and then you have to read this way that way. I mean, think of it, it's a little not complex issue, but telling you, you're controlling how somebody documents. So, and then this one. That's why it ends up on that. Is that the third one? Okay. All right, let me help down here.
Okay.
This is a lot louder than this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, man. Okay, so door schedule. Door schedule, you should be good. The only thing that I check for on here is to make sure you don't have 2 garage doors. Because if you were at the 3-car, it'd be 2 garage doors. Everything else is good. You have 13 windows. Everything looks okay. All your slopes. So, did you put the? Did you just change this, or did you?
I did add detail lines to the half of the garage.
Okay. So there's actually already an area or a foundation and roof plan set up specifically for putting on here. I'm just looking to see this thing, I swear. So this is the roof plan 2-car. All right, so we want to put the 2.5 car on there. So we'll just go ahead and roof plan 2.5 car. All right, and then what do you think? Is this the 2 car? Yep, slab plan. So we want slab plan. Whoa, 2.5 car. Come on. All right. Right? Oh! All right, and now that I got those on there, I'll just go 2, 3, and because it's already set up, it has the dimensions. We don't have to worry about redimensioning anything. And it also has these as well. And one thing to watch for is, because of the way that these work, sometimes you get these extra lines. Do you know how to use the line work tool?
I think so.
Yeah? So what I do is I use the line work tool. I use LW. I believe it's under annotate. Nope, it's under modify. But which tool is this one right here? It's under modify, view, line work. And I just use LW. I use this tool a lot. Okay? And so what you do is you set your line style. Whoa. All right? In this case, I want it to be invisible line because I want these lines to go away. And then what you do is you just click that line. Right? The line is still there. Yeah, because it's a model line. All right? If that were a detail line, I would just delete it, right? But it's a model line. Unfortunately, the way the roofs are joining, it's not quite working out. Okay? So that, and then there's some over here as well. So I'll just click that. Okay? Now sometimes there will be something where you only want half the line to disappear. So you see after I click that, I have a grip here. Okay, so now I can just drag this down, and what I'm telling it is that I'm going to shorten the amount of line that you're changing to invisible line. So when I let go of this, you'll see that that line is still there. And the cool thing about that is now I can actually take this and use line work tool on the other half of that line, and I can have 2 different line types on the same model line. But I'm going to undo that. There we go. All right. Unfortunately, I had to draw these lines. I still haven't figured out a good way to use line work tool to do this. But I'll tell you what I do use line work tool on is on my normal floor plans for the roof overhang. I'll use a line work tool. I'll make it to where I can see the roof above, like as an underlay, and then I'll use the line work tool to trace around the roof. And then I turn the roof off, but the line stays there. So if the roof updates in shape, that line will move with it, and I don't have to go move a bunch of lines. Okay. So that's what it's really, really useful for, is doing stuff like that. Let's see. So I've got my slopes. Okay, I'm missing a couple slopes here on this one, so I'm gonna add a slope there and in there. Oh, you know what? I did need that line right there. See, there's supposed to be a ridge right there. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to go back to by category. Anything in brackets, by the way, is something that you can't change. Okay. It's a system line style. So you can't change anything about it. All right, so I'm going to go back to by category. And I'm going to do invisible lines again. And I am going to go from here, there, and there we go. That's what it should look like. Does that make sense? Because there's a ridge right there. All right, this does not look accurate. This is supposed to be, but that looks better.
Is that a line underneath the roof?
this line right here, it's the wall poking up through.
Okay.
It sometimes it doesn't. I don't think it actually prints. But yeah, that's the wall underneath. One thing, also on the roof plan, I make sure for Patriot Homes that this note is in here somewhere. Sometimes I put it over here. I try not to let it be over here because the binding strip right here, we don't want it to be too close to the end. Again, we want all that information as much as we can closer to that right side. Okay. All right, so my slopes look good. All right, foundation plan. Foundation plan, I'm not gonna go into details on this, but you do want to check and make sure that you have all the different sections dimensioned. Foundation plan is basically for the guy who lays the concrete to know how to set up his forms. So if you're thinking about what's the correct way to dimension this, think about if you're laying out wood on the site to contain the concrete, what information would you want in order to draw that line? You know what I'm saying? To put those forms down. So that's what we're doing here. We're giving him all the information he needs. So he needs to go 12 foot here, 5 foot down, 17 feet across, 8 feet up, 15 over, and he's laying wood down in these dimensions.
And then he will lay the brick on the outer.
Well, this is just for the concrete. So this is the edge of the slab right here. I'll tell you what we are missing. We're missing this dimension right here. See, because he's going to need to form this line from here to here. So what we're basically showing him is how to make that form right there. That's the shape of the footprint, or of the slab. All right. And then let's see, we go down, and then we go across, and then we go down. There's that dimension, and across right here, and down and across and down. So we have all the dimensions and across. And then garage, same thing. Now these 6-inch dimensions, that's so that he knows that the wall sits 6 inches in from the face of the slab. Okay, so if you think about it, if you
like
think
2x6.
Well, actually, we have a detail for it. They frame their walls with 4-inch studs, their exterior walls, which is disappointing. But essentially, this is what happens here. Okay, so whoa. Come on, computer. There we go. So they're going to put 2x8, 2x6 something on the outside of that, and then they're going to pour all their concrete in here, inside of it, right, like that. So we're telling them where they need to put this line right here. Okay. Now for the garage wall, that 6-inch dimension. See if 1-story. Yep, here we go. So this is actually incorrect, and this is part of like actually this one might be correct. There we go. So this is between the garage and the house. Okay, so this dimension right here, from the inside face of the stud, okay, to the outside face of the slab.
Hold on, which one is that?
Is the 6 inches. So from the slab here to the stud.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the inside of the house, interior, and this is the garage. Okay. All right, so basically we tell them that they're going to put their 2x6 or 2x8. They'll pour these separately, by the way. They'll pour the garage and the house slab separately.
Okay.
Okay, so they'll form that up. They'll pour this, right? They'll let it dry, and then they'll come in and they'll pour all this later on top of it. Okay. So, and then what we do is, with that 6-inch dimension tells them you need to place that wall starting 6 inches from the face of that stud.
Makes sense.
Okay.
So you said that. What is the? Is it the depth?
The depth of
the stud. Is it because it has to be pretty deep, right? In order for them to pour it in for the concrete.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so they'll dig out, they'll dig out and they'll flatten the grade right here. Okay. And actually they'll flatten all this. Okay. I'd recommend you go find some videos on how foundations are dug.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they'll do is they'll take a backhoe. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they will dig a hole. They will dig this hole right here in the ground.
Okay.
Right? And then they'll put their rebar in. Okay? And then they'll pour this right here.
Okay.
Right? And then they'll come back in and they will form sometimes they just dig the hole. Right? They'll form this. That's either 1 2x4 or 1 2x 10, 12, whatever it is. Okay? And then they'll pour this on top of it.
Okay.
Okay? And then once that is dry, and by the way, when they pour that, they'll put those you remember those bolts that were sticking up? That's what they'll pour that into, that second pour right there.
Okay.
Okay? Sometimes this is actually all one pour. It depends on the soil conditions and what the structural engineer calls for and what the contractor is doing. All right, so then after all this is in place, they'll come in and they'll fill this all up with dirt. Well, they'll remove the form. Come on, computer. All right, they'll remove the forms and they'll fill this all back in with dirt. Right, and then they'll place these forms and then they'll pour this. So it's either going to be 2 separate pours or 3 separate pours.
That's
depending
a long process.
It is. It is a long process. All right. Does that make sense though? Mm-hmm. So I don't. Some of them use 2x10. Some of them use 2x12s. Depends on what the thickness of the slab is versus the depth of the foundation. Okay. It also depends on the soil conditions. So like if your grade is, all the way down here because maybe you have a basement or a slope.
When you say grade,
that's where the earth grade is.
Okay,
earth. Okay. So let's say you have a house that sits on a hill like this, right? And let's say your entrance is here. So your first floor is here. Okay. Well, all this down here, you have to set it on something, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what happens here is this grade, where it hits the earth, might be all the way down here. And your foundation might look something like this. Okay. And then your foundation wall steps.
Like stairs.
It's called a stepped foundation.
Okay.
Okay, so what that means is that your foundation might be here in one section, all right, but further down, it might be down here, all right? So that means that foundation wall is even taller, okay? Which means if you have brick, all right, that gets even deeper. So your brick goes all the way down there. Right, so those are all things you have to think about. That's why we go out and we look at the site and we determine what that condition is going to be. Okay, so sometimes that's a really deep hole, and their formwork.
So I have a question. When you guys go and do the site visits, or before the house is being built, how many times do you guys go out there?
As many times as we need. We try to do it 1 or 2.
Because how do you figure out? Because I know you figure out like when the sunset rises and everything.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So.
A lot of that stuff we can do without going to the site.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can determine shadows in the path of the sun just by understanding what the sun path is. Most of Tulsa has the same sun path, so it's not going to change from Sand Springs to Broken Arrow. It's going to be pretty close. Now, between Tulsa and Oklahoma City might be a little bit different. But more importantly, Tulsa and Dallas are going to be different because it's a north-south. It's going to determine how high the sun gets and how low the sun gets before it rises and sets. So yeah. Anyway, so they might have to do like a really big plywood board here that has a bunch of bracing behind it in order to form that up. Okay. All right. So that's what we're doing, is we're telling them where to form up that slab. Okay, both slabs. And we try to give them as much information as we can. We tried to give them as little information as they needed, but it turned out that we needed to give them more information. So we gave them more information. Anyway, that's the slab plan. All right, we got them numbered. And I also like to just make sure that those are lined up. And those do snap. The titles snap as well. Okay, since there's dimensions here, this title is a little bit lower in order for them to line up. Does that make sense? Okay. And then I think all the information here is good. We already checked the window schedule. I'm going to let this one slide. I've gone through and made it to where it's like three, it's in order, and then renumber them so that it's still ABCD. I think it's just good to have the window that's most prominent be A and second prominent be B. So that way you have more of the same letters grouped, and it becomes easier to kind of track that stuff. Let's see. Let's keep going through here. Floor plan. So I've done enough of these to where I have a bad habit of not checking the floor plan fully for errors. So, and what I mean by that is we've done a lot of them, so if the previous one was correct and didn't have any errors, why would I check it for errors, right? Does that make sense? So one of the errors here is we got rid of the hearth, but we obviously never got rid of the hearth text. That's not your fault. You didn't know that. That was from a previous problem. Okay. Did you see what I did adjusting the text there?
Yeah, you just.
I just slid it down so it wasn't sitting in the. No, didn't even try to edit the text. I checked to make sure that the slopes are showing. Like if we're showing vaulted ceilings, I make sure that the lines are showing and that the slopes are showing. The slopes should be the same as the roof in most cases for Patriot homes. So 11-12 side and 9-12 to the front and back, so I know that that's correct. We've got an 11-12 slope here. If I see a dashed line and there's no explanation as to what it is, then typically I'll be like, I'll try to figure out why it's not there. These are just drawn in, but if we have the ceilings actually modeled, this would be a good chance to use the line work tool, because you could turn the ceilings on, make those line styles overhead, and then turn the ceilings off. And then if those ceilings changed, all the lines would move with it. So it makes it pretty easy to take care of. Let's see here, we got 8-foot ceiling labeled. So like if this line was here but no text, I would wonder what's supposed to happen here. So put in that there's 8-foot ceiling. I make sure that all the rooms have ceiling heights and floor finishes. I'd almost be willing to bet that we get a revision back and they change something, one of these finishes, because they always forget to send us the floor finish. Like they don't check with the client, which floor finishes do you want? So this is tile right here. One of the ones that usually happens is they come back and say, oh, we want wood throughout. So we'll probably get a revision back saying that we need to put wood here.
So revision is that them just having us make changes? Or,
yeah. In this case, the context that I'm using is just changes to the construction documents. It's not as big of a deal with these documents because we haven't put them out for bid. But if we were doing a commercial project and I don't want to overload you with too much stuff. I want to keep it related to this, but this is important to know. If we do a custom house or a commercial project where the construction site goes out to bid, and then and bid by bid I mean we have like 4 or 5 contractors pricing how much it's going to cost for them to build the house, and they give us bids, and we give that to the client, and the client picks which contractors. So imagine we just gave them a shopping list. Said, this is what you need to build the house. Tell us how much it costs. And then the owner comes back and says, we want to put wood flooring instead of carpet on the entire bottom floor. Right? Well, the contractor's pricing carpet, and we've just changed it to wood. So now it's a bigger deal because we have to send a new set to all the contractors, and they have to stop what they're doing and if it's easy enough, they can just say, okay, well, we'll swap out the carpet for the wood flooring cost. That's pretty easy because it's by square footage, right? But sometimes it's more complicated, like we're changing wall assemblies, and you have to go figure out an entire wall assembly amount of cost difference. Okay, and that's where this guy comes in, right? This is a revision list. You'll probably never see it on a Patriot Homes project, but on some other projects you'll see. Revision 1 changed exterior wall type. Revision 2 changed floor finish. And you give a date, and that's how you know when you're on the site which set you're looking at. It's the most up-to-date one. Okay. So 9-foot ceiling there, that's good. I'm just going to go through here. Make sure washers and Patriot Homes are always on the left. The washer is always on the left. I don't know why he is so nitpicky about that, but washer is always on the left. Shelves, 2-tier, RNS, or you know what RNS means?
Rest, then I don't know.
But think about your closet at home, your bedroom. What's in there?
Rack and shelf.
Close. Rod.
Okay.
The thing that you hang the fingers on.
Gotcha.
Rod. Yeah, rack is pretty close. So two-tier rod and shelf. Sometimes it'll say like 1R 2S or 2R 1S, which means 2 rods, 1 shelf, or 1 rod, 2 shelves. This says 2-tier, so it's probably 2 rods, 2 shelves. This isn't labeled, so I don't know what that is. I'm just going to leave it unlabeled because he hasn't mentioned anything about it. We do not design Patriot Homes projects. We just do revision. They don't pay our design fee.
Okay.
If you're ever working on one and it seems like they're wanting you to make a design decision, you want to make sure we talk to them about that. One thing that you'll notice about Patriot Homes projects is the dimensions should, for the most part, be to the center of the stud, with the exception of exterior walls. And that's just because that's the way Christopher wants it. He thinks that his framers are better off with it in the center of stud.
Okay.
Closets don't need ceiling heights and floor finishes because it's usually going to match whatever room it's attached to. So this will probably have wood floor, 8-foot ceiling. Does that make sense? Entry, I don't know why that's rotated. Little things like this that just bother me. If I see it, I'll fix it, but it's not going to affect whether or not it's built. Okay. Let's see. Now we have this dimension here. Okay. I was thinking that we might be missing a dimension here, but it is up here, so I'm not going to worry about that. This is a more thorough check than I would normally do, by the way. Okay. I would not normally spend this much time checking this, but I'm just kind of looking through. I especially look at the design option areas. Okay, if I know that I had to change from 2-car to 2.5 car, I want to make sure that all the dimensions are showing up here, right? Okay. And that it's tagged properly. Right, so we're good there. We're pointing out random shake. It's good. Random shake is random cedar shake. Okay. So shake siding. There you go.
Okay.
and then shake sighting.
I don't know why I thought when I saw that note, I thought of earthquake.
It's just random. It has a random shake. I want the front of this house to look like we're having random earthquakes. For some reason, random cedar shake siding. So this is more of a, so if you see, this is like a, okay, this is more random. So you can see these are random. As opposed to more uniform, this is more uniform right here. Straight bottoms. You could almost call this random because the sizing is different.
Yeah, it's not.
But usually a random pattern will have uneven pieces. Okay. This is a pretty good example of random shape. Right. I'm going to spend time on this because this is pretty good. This is pretty good training. In my opinion, I don't know. It might be useless to you.
I've definitely learned a lot.
I checked to make sure that the doors are tagged. All the doors are tagged because we want to give them the information that they need, so they go from this number back to the door schedule. Okay. This is one instance where all the information isn't on one sheet. You know how we've talked about you want to tell the whole story. Sometimes you can't get it all on one sheet. If we had the room, we'd put the door and the window schedule on this sheet too, so that it would all be there. But I would rather us tell a good story, and if we have to move something off to a different sheet, than have the same information in multiple places. Because if you put the same information in multiple places, there's more chance of it being wrong in one place.
Okay. So
if you have 3 door schedules, and somehow somebody accidentally puts something in one of them, now you have to ask which one's correct. Okay. Does that make sense? So we want to reduce the amount of redundant information. So one thing real quick that is a side effect of having the buyer review set is that you see how it looks like you have multiple tags here, right? So what's happened here is we've copied the elevation, and because we put it on a sheet, it's showing both of those elevations. Yeah. So it has the rear elevation for the construction set and the rear elevation for the buyer review set in the same place. So what I have done in the past to take care of this is I just update the floor plan. And remember our good friend filters?
Yes, wait, what did you, I was trying to remember that at first. Okay, you went to...
What I just did, or for filters?
To get to it.
I clicked, so under view template, I clicked there.
Okay.
Okay, and then this is basically visibility graphics for the view templates. Okay. Now I'm noticing here that filters is not set up for a floor plan. So for this project, it's not going to affect much more than just this because there's no elevations in this view. So I'm just going to go to visibility graphics here.
And you can go, okay, yeah.
Right, I'm going to go to filters, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter. Oh, you get to learn how to do filters. So remember we did a filter for schedule? Okay, so if I wanted to, and usually if you talk yourself through this, it kind of starts to make sense of what you're trying to do. So what are we trying to do here? We
are trying to hide the buyer's review.
Okay, buyer review elevations.
Elevation.
So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to filters. I'm going to hit add. Okay. There's not one for what do you think the filter would be called?
Buyer review.
Okay. So we're going to hit edit new. And we're going to make a new one. And we're going to call it buyer review elevations. All right. And the category is going to be elevations. All right. Now, what do you think we're going to filter by? How do we tell Revit that we're looking for a buyer review elevation?
The sheet name.
The sheet name?
Wait, the title of the sheet.
The title of the sheet?
On the sheet.
Title on sheet? Well, those are different for each one, though, right? So we have to think of a parameter that's going to be the same value for all of the buyer reviews.
Well, you can't get out of that window. So, because I would say just select all of them, but you can't do that.
So if you, okay, but you're on the right track though. If you selected all of them, what would you be selecting?
It would be the buyer review sheet set.
The set?
But
you're saying hide the sheets.
Oh, okay.
That's what you're saying is you would tell it don't show those sheets. All right, let me go see what this is.
Okay, and I'll figure that out.
Think through that. Right?
Sheet number. Sheet.
Okay. Think through it.
I still think it, since you're trying to get the elevation, just the elevations to be filtered. I can't.
So I'm gonna do something to see if we can make sense of this for you, because I think if you had a better understanding of like the deep down fundamentals of how Revit works, it would be not obvious, but a little bit clear on why the answer is what it is. So with Revit, see if I can find a blank spot. Okay, with Revit, everything in Revit is a family of a category. Okay, so you've got a project, a dashed project apparently. Okay, and you have there are a couple different types of families. Okay, there's user families, okay, which are like our title block, or a component like a stove or cabinets, things like that. Okay, so we'll call that user family. Okay, and then we have system families. And that bubble is too small. Okay, and system families can be things like floors, okay, floor assemblies, or walls. Right? What else would be, do you think would be a system family? Ceilings. Okay. What else?
Slab is the same thing as floor, right?
Yep. Floor, slab.
More structure, so like columns.
Okay. Columns, columns are actually things that we load in because it can be different types. So the system families are things like assemblies. It's a bunch of stuff put together. Okay, so if you have to take different parts and put them together for one component, then it's going to be usually a system family. So think of a floor. Okay, you've got concrete, and then maybe a topping finish, and then your tile or whatever you put on top of that. So it's a bunch of multiple things, right? I think my pen battery's about to die. Or a wall. Okay, a wall is a bunch of things. You've got stud and then jet on each side. So it's multiple things put together. So if you have to put things together, then it's going to be usually a system family. Okay. Now this is where a lot of people get confused. There are also system families that aren't model things. So like the title view. So this, cancel here so I can get back to it pretty quick. So this viewport, okay, is actually a system family.
Okay.
All right. And the reason is because we can actually bring in multiple things. So the title, okay, is actually a user family. That we bring into the viewport family.
I noticed.
And to make one thing. So when we can bring some of these families, we can bring user created content into to make it. So like an elevation tag, right, would be an elevation view. Elevation view is a system family, but you can create your own tag to make it look a certain way. Okay. So I'm going to put views right here, specifically elevations, right? So if we look at this elevation, okay, it says elevations, right? Elevations, elevation, all right? So it's an elevation. What type of elevation is it?
It's a building.
The building elevation, right? As opposed to what?
Instead of an interior.
Interior elevation. What do you think? What do you think the difference between those two?
A building is bigger, and an interior is just you can crop it.
That's the drafting. That's the correct drafting answer.
Okay.
Like in drafting, that's exactly right. Building elevation is full building, and interior elevation is going to show you a certain part, like your casework that you've been working in. In Revit, the answer to that is the difference between those two is exactly what you tell it the difference is.
Okay.
So we can have a new elevation type called, you know what? There's not one in here yet, so we're going to create an elevation type called buyer review. Okay? So I just made a new elevation type called buyer review. There's nothing different about it, but in the eyes of Revit, I can change these elevations to be whatever we need it to be. Now this is A3, so I know that which set does that belong to?
A3 belongs to the buyer review.
There we go. So that's definitely a buyer review. Now the cool thing about this is if we have pins that we can throw, all right, in Revit, when we've done that, if we go look in our browser organization and we go look under elevations, okay, we have building elevation, and now we also have a buyer review elevation. Okay, so elevation, okay, family, wow. We're going to try that again, like it's not Monday. It'll eventually go away. It'll eventually go away. There we go. So family is elevation. Okay, and that's also our category, by the way. Okay. What do you think the type is? Of that one that we just had selected. Oh, right there.
The
buyer review. Yep. Okay, this applies to everything in Revit. Everything.
Okay.
Everything in Revit has a category or family, and it has a type. Okay? The next step below that is an instance. Okay? You know, what do you think an instance is? Just from the way. By the way, I'm not being patronizing and talking down to you. I'm just explaining things as simply as I can, because I know we're going over sets and Revit and all this stuff. So.
It will have to be, of course, another type. So I'm guessing it will be a sheet.
All right, so you have, so let's look at the sheet. All right, so let's come down here to sheet. Okay, what is that right there that I just selected? Is that a family or a type?
It looks like a type.
All right, then what is this?
It's a set.
Okay, so family.
Okay.
Type.
A family type, and then it's okay. That makes sense.
So how many instances of a buyer review sheet do we have?
5.
Yep, that's right. Okay, so these are all instances of construction set.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, that makes sense.
We're gonna look at it another way. You know how cars work, right? You keep the greasy side down, the shiny side up, and it has 4 wheels, right? All right, that's my steering wheel. All right, and you're just sitting there driving, okay? So this is the front, back, and we'll say driver side and passenger side. right? Hopefully, your tires, all right, are all made by the same company. Okay, so how many different types of tire do you have? Well, I'll take that back. How many families do we have of tire?
One.
Yeah, one. It's all family is tire. How many different types do you have?
You have 4.
You have 4 different types?
Well, never mind. You just have one.
Yeah.
4 tires.
Okay. So we'll just say they're Firestone. All right. Now, some people would also say, well, you might have 2 different types if they're directional. You know what directional tires are? They can only spin. Well, they can only spin in one direction.
Oh, no.
So you might have directional tire here and here, another directional tire here and here. But we'll say for the sake of this, we just have one type, Firestone. Okay. Right? How many instances do you have?
You have 4.
4 instances. You got this. Okay. All right. Now let's say that you have a parameter called position, and you have a parameter called color. Okay. Is this too much, by the way? Are you getting this? You following along? Okay. Just let me know if you need to process. Okay, because we're on a tangent now. We're not on the sheet. So this is training.
Okay.
Okay. We'll put all this under training, not under Dawson. Okay. That way we're not killing them.
Okay.
Yes. So, do you think that color is a type parameter or an instance parameter? I know you don't know what those mean, but which one do you think that would be?
I think it would be more of a
family parameter. We'll call it a type. So family, we'll call it a type parameter because instance and type parameters are both in the family. Okay. So you think type?
It's a car the same color.
Okay. What color are your tires?
Okay.
You can pick any. You can pick any color. We're being imaginative now. Okay. Position. Do you think that that's a type parameter or an instance parameter?
It is. It has to be a type.
Type parameter. Okay. So give me a position of a tire.
The driver.
Driver.
And
front or rear?
The passenger.
Well. So the driver describes 2 of them.
Oh, okay. Then the driver left.
Front or rear? Front or back?
Oh, back.
Back. Okay. Driver side, back. Okay. So we have 4 black tires at the driver backside.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Does it? That means that this tire is at the back driver side, this tire is at the back driver side, this tire is at the back driver side, and this tire is at the back driver side.
What, the front?
Yeah, that's what you said. It's a type parameter, so it applies to all 4 because you only have one type.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yes.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of cars. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what position? Okay, you need position to change for all 4 of these, right? Okay, you don't want it to be the same for all 4 because this needs to be front driver, this needs to be front passenger.
Okay.
This needs to be back passenger. This needs to be back driver.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. So position. I would
just make it just the driver.
Position would be an instance parameter.
Okay.
So that you can change that for all of them. Now, that's just an overview of theory. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me show you what that means in practice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I've just selected a title block. Okay, is this an instance? I'm not even going to ask that question. This is an instance of what family?
Of the title block.
Mm-hmm. Of that title block family right there.
Okay.
Okay. So we've been talking about types and instances. Everything, when I select this, everything that shows up in this property box right here is an instance parameter. I can change all of these parameters without changing any of the other title blocks.
Okay.
Okay, so that means if I change this to A100, okay, it changes just this instance of the title block. Okay, now, as soon as I go into edit type, okay, these are parameters that affect all the title blocks of this type in the project.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm going to use something here. We're going to do select all instances in entire project. Okay, so there's 5 instances of this title block type in the project. And the type that we're looking at is the buyer review set type. Okay. Okay, so if I were to change the type parameter of this, it would affect all the other sheets of this type. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, if I select just this one, so I only have one title block selected, hit edit type, okay, we see that second floor area is set to yes, and third floor area is set to no. Pages is set to 2. You don't need to know what these mean, okay, but just know that those are the values. Okay, if I go to this other sheet that has the same type of title block, okay, and hit edit, we can see that those are the same. Okay, now I only have one title block selected, but if I change this, okay, parameter, and go back to my cover sheet, and now I look at this, it's changed that parameter also.
Okay.
Okay, so coming back to our car down here, if we change the type parameter color to red, all right, then all of a sudden all 4 of these tires are going to be red.
Yeah.
Okay, or if I change the manufacturer parameter to Michelin, then all 4 of them are going to be Michelin. Okay, but it doesn't affect, if I change this position to front passenger, then I just have 2 tires at front passenger.
Yeah.
I'm driving like this. Okay, but it doesn't affect the other instances of that type. Okay, is that making sense?
Yeah, I'm kind of getting.
You'll start to see it more as you're going through. Okay, so keeping in mind, where were we? We were on our floor plan, I believe. Okay, we were talking about elevations. Okay, so the reason that this conversation started was, how do we filter out buyer review set elevations? Okay, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to take these copies that you made, which is fine, nothing wrong with it, and you only did 3 of them, that's right. Okay, we take those and we're just going to change those. See, I don't even have to select them out here. Okay, I'm just going to select them right here, and then I can change the type to buyer review, and it puts them down under buyer review. So now we have 3 elevation families of type buyer review. Okay, and this is important because now we can come in here and go to our visibility graphics. We're going to set up a filter, edit new. Okay, I'm going to create a new one, and we're going to call this buyer review elevations, and we're going to make it apply only to elevations. I haven't checked anything else. So what do you think we're going to filter by, now that you've been through all that?
We are going to do family.
Right, so I'm going to click family, equals, and these are our options. Elevations. Okay, so let's look at the parameters for this. Okay, what is this filter going to pick up?
It's going to pick up all the elevations. All
elevations, not just buyer review. It's also going to pick up interior and building elevations.
Okay.
Okay, so now what do you think is going to be? You're going to do it by?
It's going to be Is it in there? Family and type.
Okay.
I don't think that's right though. Okay, yeah, I guess so. Then you would just push, yeah.
And you're doubting yourself. You had it right.
Okay.
Okay. Buyer review. Okay, so now we have a filter called buyer review elevations, which grabs a collection of all elevations of family and type buyer review.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to put it in there. And now, as a group of family and type of elevations buyer review, we can change the properties of everything.
Okay.
Okay, in this view. And the only thing we really want to change is what?
The visibility.
Yeah, we just uncheck visibility. Yeah. All right, unfortunately I'm zoomed out so you can't see the change. If I zoom back in, you can see that they're gone now. Mm-hmm. Okay, on all of them. We've got one here that looks like it's not on a sheet, so it's not going to print, so I'm not going to worry about that. Oh, we've got one here. Buyer review. See, as soon as I made it that type, it went away.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's go through and check these, make sure. Those dashes mean that they're not on a sheet.
Okay.
Okay, so if you see sections like these right here, if it's dashed, I have the printer set up so that it doesn't print those at all, so you don't have to worry about hiding them. Okay, that was a lot. Okay, it was a lot of explaining. I want to make sure, do you have any questions about that? You want to kind of let it sink for a little bit and go through just the family and type and instance?
I think I pretty much have it.
Okay.
It's just
it'll make a lot more sense as you start playing with those different parameters. Yeah. I remember.
I was trying to remember if you went to edit type.
when we did the buyer review. So I remember what I did is I selected one over here and I did edit type and then I duplicated.
Okay.
And I made a new type. Okay. And that works for everything. Okay. So what category is this?
That would be with the doors.
Doors. All right. Which family is it?
With the doors.
So this is a user. So family or a category is doors. Okay. Family is actually that next one there. Single panel 1M.
Oh, okay.
So that's the file name that you actually loaded in.
Okay.
Okay. What type is it?
Okay, the type is a single panel.
That's the family.
Okay.
Single panel 1M is the family, and the type is.
Okay, it's 24. It's 68.
So if I drop this down, you can see this is the family, right? And these are all the types.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the instance parameters. Okay, so the mark is an instance parameter, so I can change that without affecting the other doors. Okay, see it changed here. I want to hit cancel. And then I can edit type, and I can duplicate that door and make my own door type with whatever parameters for that type that I need.
Okay, I get it now.
Okay. Make sure I didn't leave that in there. Okay. So that'll, as you start doing doors and windows and wall types and floor types, that whole thing that we just explained will make a lot more sense. And when I was learning Revit, when I finally figured that out, I was like, oh.
Well, Kim kind of showed me a little bit.
Because a lot of that, I mean, like the schedule filters and view filters and all that is really dependent on understanding what families and instances in Revit are.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we filtered out buyer review elevations. It took us an hour, but we did it. I'm going to take an opportunity real quick to show you one more thing. if there's already files in a project, try to be consistent with the naming. Okay. So there wasn't one already for Holland. So
I need
this,
to change that.
Yep,
Take
that's
that
fine.
S off.
So we don't need that it's a 2.5 car garage right, okay? Because they might flip it, and then we'll have to rename it the garage left. Okay. It's only important in the model plans where one of them's garage right and one of them's garage left. We're not going to have one Holland that's a garage right and one Holland that's a garage left. Okay. And yeah, we can take Holland. We can take the S off. I don't care that you didn't put the 1 in parentheses, but typically you'll see that in parentheses, and it actually drives me insane. But I would prefer that you put either an underscore or a dash.
Okay.
Underscore is more like instead of doing a space, you would do an underscore. Right, but if you wanted to separate sections of the file, so this is a Dawson 2, it's for the family Holland, and it's the first version. You would put dashes between Dawson 2, Holland, and 1. Okay, so you can do it this way. But just try to be consistent with what's already there. So there should have been a dash right there, but it changes. Less about what it's called and more about just being consistent with what's already there. There wasn't already anything there, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
And I just called it 1, even though it should be 2. Not thinking straight. While this is saving, do you have any questions? I know it was a lot.
Some of it I kind of figured out by just playing with it.
Yeah, a lot of it you've already gotten. So we're going to start getting more into the technical aspects of working in Revit. Oh, it's not showing up. Come on, Revit.
I think I have any questions.
Oh man, I can't wait till we fix whatever it is that's causing the save times to be so long. Okay. So I think we have beaten this floor plan horse to death. So we're going to move on. Check this floor plan here. We don't need to see the electrical stuff. Did you make a new floor plan for this one also, the second floor? Check and see. Because this looks like it's different than. Oh no, it just says second floor plan. I don't know why those electrical showing up here. I'm just gonna check something real quick. I don't think that helped me any. And neither did that. Let me check something out here. Because we shouldn't be able to see that electrical. Garage right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's open that up and see what's going on there.
Actually, I remember I saw the electrical plan on the second floor, but I hid it and I thought I also hid the underlay of the electrical.
It could be that the underlay is showing. Let's look at this. So this is upper floor plan, and we do have an underlay showing. So let's just look and see. Not what I wanted. Also not what I wanted. I'm not sure what I just did. Okay. Oh boy. Let's hide these. Hey, what? Let's just do this. Alright, so I've got the original Dawson 2 over here, and the new one over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about this very carefully, because I don't want to transfer project standards, because I don't want to override anything that you've already done. Nope. Let's take a look at this view template. I'm just going to look and see. Electrical equipment and fixtures is turned off in that one. And then over here, it's turned on. So I'm almost wondering, did you change the view template for the electrical plan by chance?
I don't think I did.
Pictures are still showing up. Let's look and see. Electrical plan, none. Copy, none. Well, I don't know why it's doing it, but the fix is to go into the view template and turn off those things that we don't want to see. All right. Yes, ma'am. I don't hear it. I'll come down in just a second. So we can probably hide these gutters and the fascia. And I just used the temporary hide and then apply. I'm just checking, double checking this across this to make sure it looks okay. We don't need the ceilings to show either. I'm not sure why. See the ceiling pattern showing? Go through and hide that as well. I missed it? Oh man. Maybe someone next door flushed the toilet. So what's going on here? Why are we seeing those ceilings? Ceilings are actually turned on there. Oh. That's why. Okay, so for some reason this floor has been changed to granite. It should be concrete. That's why. Okay. Feeling better. think got the door change in there. One thing, so we should have a note down here. Okay. It says door openings to be centered between adjacent walls or 6 inches from nearest wall if no dimensions provided. Okay, so based on that note, where do you think that door is going to go?
Either in the center, 6 inches from.
Right. So we either want to show it centered or 6 inches away. Or if it's not going to be one of those, then we need to give a dimension to it, which is perfectly fine. We can do that. And just thinking from a design standpoint, where we want that to go. Nope. Let's just see where they drew it.
I try to put it just like what they showed on there.
So thinking about the intention of where this is 2'10", okay? And that's 4'1". Did they say how big of a door? They didn't say how big of a door. We're just going to leave that right where you've got it. Okay. But we do want to be sure that we've got a dimension on there so that they know where to locate that. Remember how when we were looking at the framing on site and they marked where the doors were going to go, and then they frame it, and then they cut the sill plate out. So they needed to know where that door is going to go. And we'll leave it as this is a 4-foot door, so actually only about a foot bigger than the other one. Yeah, we'll leave it like that. But if I wanted to make that a 3-foot door, how would I do that, do you think?
I'll go to edit type.
Yep, there you go.
And go down to width. Wait, no, the width.
Width?
And change it to
change
you
that?
would duplicate it.
Yeah, there you go. That's the key. So you want to duplicate it. All right. That. I think we can full screen here. All right, 1, 2. That's all fine. Yeah, if we need to start heading out. Exterior elevations. So a couple things here. Numbering, right? We want to be sure we get the numbering back the right way. So we're going 5, 1, 2, 4. We want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's the trick. Okay, I can't name this 1 because there's already a 1 on the sheet. Okay, Revit's not smart enough to swap the numbers for us. So here's what I do. I figure out what my numbering is going to be. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And if there's already 1 on there, I'll do 1 dot. Okay, and then I'll go to the next one, 2. And if there's already a 2 on there, go 2 dot. Okay, I'll go to the next one, 3. And if everything's good, I go back and I change them from 2 dot to 2. 1, right? And now they're good. All right, so even though we lined up the elevations, we snapped them to the right place. Okay, we want to go ahead and bring the views back, not overlap the title block. We got this one overlapping here. Bring that here. All right, we want to make sure that we don't have the views overlapping each other too. I don't think we have a whole lot of room to change this. So I'm just going to leave it right where it's at. It's pretty tight. Maybe we can bring this over a little bit right there. And that'll help clean things up a little. Oops. Excuse me. All right, and we want to make sure that everything says front elevation, back elevation, not front elevation copy. Let's see, this one is still 3-car garage. All right, so let's make sure. It says 2.5-car garage, so we want to make sure that just this one is this. This is back. Let's just see if we can apply that view template. 2.5 car. For some reason, this is just not cooperating. Well, it says 2.5 car. But this is checked, so we can't override it. Here. There we go. All right, we're good there. So there's a couple things that I'm noticing that's missing that you might not have known if you're not familiar with the project. We're missing our soldier coursing here and our soldier coursing here at the top.
And should I add a note since I added gutters to the front?
No, you can, but you don't need to. It's more for visual effect.
Okay. Because
they ask for front gutters. So to do the soldier coursing, I use the paint tool. It takes forever to load. Do you remember where the paint tool is? I think it's either under view or modify.
I think it was under view.
It's under one of those. All right, but then there's a material called soldier coursing. You can just type in soldier, and there it is. And then you just click in the areas where you need the soldier coursing. Now this one's a little bit trickier. Well, never mind, it's already oriented, so it's not tricky at all. All right. And there's your random shake pattern there. Okay, we're missing it here too. So I'm just going to come in here and paint this.
I think I might have removed the paint.
Sometimes it does it itself when we're making design option changes or mirroring. Sometimes it never gets put back in. Sometimes it just decides it doesn't want it, so it does it itself. I'm actually going to get rid of this one. That one doesn't need to be there. Making sure that all the text is okay. Tags on windows, slopes on roofs. So make sure we got slopes, so we're missing this slope right here. Change that to triangle. Do you have time to stay for a little bit, or do you need to get? Do you need to go?
I can wait.
Okay. Have a good one. Stay dry. Drive safe. So this elevation takes care of this all the way down, or this slope marker. This one, we need one here. Okay, so we go through, tab through till we get the right thing. Get that triangle. Just gonna go. So that's. Did you see what just happened? Mm-hmm. See how it just says cedar, but when I changed it, it said shake. For some reason, some of these, the text is messed up. I don't know why it does that. But if you notice that happening, what I just did, and this is just a little pro tip. All right, I use select all instances. You could actually do an entire project, and that'll fix all of them through the entire project. And all I do is nudge left and nudge right, so it puts it back in the exact same spot. But for some reason, nudging the text fixes it. I don't know why. It's just one of those stupid Revit things. Okay, we got brick sill, siding above. Everything's looking pretty good.
Some of them I meant to take well, no, that was in the bar review, never mind. I took the window tags and the door tags off because it didn't have the tags on the floor plan. So it's like, it's no point in putting it on there.
Nope, you're exactly right. Yep. So we got all our elevation, our slopes there. We got all of our slopes here. We have this one right here. It's kind of out in nowhere. I don't know if it'll let me, nope, it won't let me take it up. So I'm just gonna put that right there. See, and this one, this is redundant information. We don't need it. on both spots because this line is continuous. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then just so that you're not mistaking what I'm doing, I know some of the stuff you didn't do.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going through some of the stuff that you potentially did that just needs corrected, and also some things that you might see going through a project that might need to be corrected too. So things like that. There's a little tiny shoulder right there. I don't know if you noticed over here, I actually didn't correct it. I don't like when it's just like straight down like that. So I tend to do angled arrows, leaders like that. Again, one of those things that I'm not going to flip out about if, I probably won't flip out about too many things, period. So. But it's not one of those things that I'll be like, Courtney, you can't do that. But if I'm in a project, I'll probably fix it. Let's see. Everything's looking pretty good there. Okay, so we've got a whole wall here that needs fixing. That reminds me, I need to make sure that my brick sills are also painted, because those tend to go away sometimes. All right. We need to make sure we have our notes for our windows up there, which you wouldn't know unless you were familiar with the project, so don't worry too much about that. Make sure I've got my slopes. Slopes are all good. Make sure I don't have stray lines. Now, one thing we are missing is the soldier coursing right here. So that soldier course is going to wrap all the way around. What I do to apply that is a split face. Are you familiar with split face?
No.
Okay, it's right here. It's this guy right here. I have it set up for SF because I use it a lot. Essentially what it allows you to do, so I selected the split face tool. Oh, I have to be editing the 2.5 car garage option. Well, now hold on a second. I bet this one does not have the 2.5 car option set up to it. What's that? Okay. All right, so I just applied the 2.5 car garage option. I think that was the 3 car garage that was just not showing it. So I bet if we look at this, see the 2.5 car option has it, but if I go to 3 car, see, it's not on there. So we would, if this were 3 car, we would just have to split face, and what I do is I just draw a line, and usually I have something on both sides for a reference, but it's usually 10 inches below that soffit right there. So now that I have a split face, I can just go in and paint. I can paint. One of these. And you see how it highlights which one? I can just paint that one right there, and there it is.
What about finishing?
I would split face this, and I'd split face all the surfaces.
Oh, okay.
So you just do it all the way around. Right. Okay, so that's good. My levels, see, this is starting to clip right there. I'm not going to worry about it because it's labeled elsewhere. Second floor plate goes all the way through, 9-foot plate goes all the way through, 8-foot plate. That's all fine. We dimension, if a window header is not at the window header level, we'll always dimension what that is. And like right here, we can't see the headers. So you want to give them a dimension somewhere. I don't know why that's green. So either a header or sill dimension so they know how high to frame that window. Actually, we just need one of those because it's pretty easy to tell those are next to each other. So we've got a level here for second floor, 8-foot. Yeah. Second floor, 8-foot plate, right? And then we dimension where that header is from both the plate height and the floor height. This one's a little tricky because that game room steps up a foot, so it's not actually at the second floor height. All right, so just kind of continuing to check the same thing all the way throughout. So we've got some weird angle things going on here. Bring that out a little bit more. Siding, that's fine. See, and here's another thing. I mean, sure, we have two different roof lines here, but I mean, you pretty easily tell that those are parallel, right? And the only reason you would need to put another one here is if this was like 8 and it was really close to parallel, but you needed to tell them it's different, right? So you don't need them on both of them. The same would apply here, but we don't have a slope dimension, so we want to make sure that we put slopes on here. Now, when you're doing gable roofs, okay, this is a little tricky. What do you think that this slope would be for this side? Based on the other slopes that you see.
It would be 9.
It'd be 9. Yep. But when I put that there, it says 7. Okay, and the reason is because it's actually giving you the slope of this line right here and not this right here. So it's one of those things where if you know what the slope should be, if you don't know what the slope should be, then just kind of hit tab to see what happens, right? If you tab through, it gives you the right one. Same thing there. Okay, now this one's far enough away to where I say go ahead and throw a 912 on there, and I'm just going to select those and make them triangles. But you don't need one right here. Okay, it's 1112. We're good there. We got our soldier coursing, siding, brick, provide expansion joints as required. That's good. Probably go ahead and throw this over here instead of there. Nine-foot plate doesn't go all the way through, so it's only on this side. That's good. Windows are tagged. Trim showing up. Dimensions between the header and some sort of datum so that they know how high it is. And I think we're good on elevations. Any questions about the elevation sheet? Okay.
Wait, I didn't have a question.
Okay.
I think it's the back. No, it says back elevation. Yeah. Where the 12. The second floor 8-foot plate. Would you have that right there, or would you extend it more to the left?
Oh, like to line it up here? Personal preference. If you want to get all this datum, which is just like level information out of the way, then you could do that. If you think that makes it cleaner, you can do that. It didn't bother me too much that it was right there, but I mean that does kind of square things up. So one thing. So like my justification would be I can't bring this all the way over because it starts to get into that view. So my justification is make that one the same. Which is just that's a silly justification. It doesn't really need to be here or there. But as long as I would say like you wouldn't want to put it like out here. And not because it's off the title block, but because it just doesn't make sense. But because it doesn't go all the way through the house, then maybe it doesn't line up with the other ones also. But you could say that this one should be over here, but it wouldn't fit. You could also say that it should be shorter. I don't know. It could go either way. Any other questions on this? All right. So details, I'm not going to mess with that right now. Electrical. Okay, so one thing that I know that we're missing here, we want those to line up. Okay. We are missing this right here. So
I'm not gonna put that in there. I guess I'll just put it in there.
Well, it looks like what happened is this was the original electrical sheet, and then you made a new electrical sheet and put it there. So the tricky thing here is that because of the way this was done, you can't have it on both. We need it on both, but you can't have it on both. So let's look and see. I think this is a drafting view, electrical, duplicate with detailing, right? And now we can. And the other thing is we don't need to say electrical symbol edge because it already says it there. So say no title there. But now we can go back to this one, and we can drop that onto here. There's another version of this that fits between the plans when the plans don't take up quite so much space. But I don't know where that one is. It's not in this project. So everything here should be okay, but I like to check just to make sure that all the wires are connected. There's nothing like floating out in space. Make sure that things like this are correct. I want to make sure that the outline of the ceiling is shown. We don't have to show the slopes, but we want to show that the outline is shown, so that they know that this fan is in the middle of a recessed area, or like in the where we do vaulted ceilings here, that the lights are in a sloped portion of the ceiling. Or if there's a pattern, like when we do tray ceilings in here, that it's in the middle of all the beams. So it's important to have that information. Like right here, we're not showing that there's a ceiling change, and I do want to show that. So I'm going to go back to the floor plan. And I'm just going to take this and copy it. And use the paste same, right? Which is paste align to current view to put it in the same spot. Everything else looks good. Yeah. So I'll probably go through and I'll check. So this one right here, we want to make sure, so we're missing a couple things. Oh, you know what? For some reason,
those weren't there even when I was in the electrical plan. I could find them.
Huh. Did you make a new version of this?
I think I did.
Okay. So an easy way to do it, and this is why I like doing model components. Oh, they're not here either. If we did model components, those would show up. So I don't know. I'm going to take these. Let's see. So we got most of them there. Wait, what? Oh, those are not model components, or they're not detail components. I thought they were detail components. So there we go. Second floor, do we have a slope in the ceiling? I think we do, so we want to be sure we show that. Oh. All right, so I can just take all these. What's it doing? Copy. Paste. And it's already in this one, so I'm not worried about that. All right, so I'll go through and I'll check the buyer review set, and I'll redline anything that's major that will come up against. But I mean, that was a lot of, we went through a lot for one door changing, but hopefully it gives you a good idea of what a Patriot Home set looks like, and kind of process of changing things and what you have to change and be aware of when you're doing this. That'll be it for now.
Okay.
You can put all this time under training that we spent on this.
Okay.
Put time for helping cleaning up the water.
Okay.
Under administrative. Oh boy. Well, that was fun. It's not on anymore. Appreciate that. Fortunately, it's not somebody that I know, but it's pretty sad. Oh, come on. There's a project, it's under Tulsa administration, not available. Yeah, I don't know. You're not gonna like that, but I take care of it. It's awfully nice of you guys. Yeah, and then uh, that same night, I think, no, that same weekend, a Broken Arrow teacher was killed in a home invasion. That same weekend, so it was a rough weekend for Broken Arrow, man. I think I am going to put a note here on the gutters. Let's see, 30 seconds each. Whoops. Yeah, today was an interesting day. I spent most of this stream cleaning up floodwater in our office. Here, I'll just put this up over here while I work so you can see what I've been having to deal with. Let's see, shared albums. There's shared albums here. Sharing. That's not it. Nope. Not what I meant to do. Can I do a not full screen slideshow? Apparently not. So this is how it started out. Little bit of water dripping from there. And from there. And from there. A little dripping from right there. On our rooftop unit. A little bit of water coming under the window there. With a drip, drip, drip. And a drip, drip, drip. And a drip. And a drip there. And then it escalated to this. And this is actually already pretty dry from where it was just previous to this. But the water was just flowing in. Just flowing in. That's under our stair. So much water. There's about 20 gallons of water that came in. Speaking of which, it's still raining, so I'm going to go make sure that it's not, in fact, flooding right now. All good so far. Yeah. Yeah, just a little bit of a problem. Nice. Good luck in your competition. Hmm.
Have a good night.
You too. Drive safe. Yeah. Thanks for patiently listening.
Did that book ever come in?
Oh, I haven't had a chance to order it yet. I'll get it though.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that it should be coming in anytime, so.
Yeah, I probably said it'll be coming in soon, but I haven't.
Oh, okay. Okay.
right. I'm gonna have to go ahead and cut the stream off because we've got water coming into the building and I have to go make sure that it doesn't ruin our print shop. So, appreciate you stopping by. Hope it was edifying or entertaining. Yeah, I'm gonna go stop a flood. So, have a great one, and hopefully I'll be back tomorrow.